very familiar speech which brings this out very strongly. King Richard II has heard his land is in arms against him, and so he laments his downfall.
For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown and rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little seen to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable. And humid thus, comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall. And farewell, King.
Good. Now, what I'm going to push is the element of the self-mockery. We'll see if we take it even further as far as we can go. I think to set the whole thing up, for God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. You should say to the audience, this is going to be great, telling this story of the death of kings. I think if you get that trigger into the speech, you're away for it. But if you go totally into your grief for death of kings, the idea of you standing outside yourself and luxuriating in a situation comes. Just to go for that one line.
For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings.
That's right. It's delicious. It's going to be glorious. We're going to have fun.
Interesting 5 minutes.
Now, skip on a few lines and come to the famous lines, within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king. Your enjoyment of discovering that the crown is hollow, not the grief of the crown's weight and greatness, but this crown is hollow, and I'm enjoying the discovery. And rounding the mortal temples of a king, the realization that you're mortal, don't play it for the woe of it, but enjoy mocking yourself. That little bit.
For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp.
That's marvellous.
Allowing him makes no end of difference.
See, that line, scoffing his state, death scoffing your state and grinning at your pomp, is the clue in a way to the speech. Because death is mocking you, you realise it, and you enjoy laughing at yourself. Why don't you try it through again, having latched onto this particular thing that we're going for, now actually take it a bit quicker because you'll actually enjoy it more.
Right.
Okay?
Right. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court. There the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little seen, to monarchize, be feared, and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable. And humoured thus, comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall. And farewell, King.
Now, I think that what you showed beautifully there was something that I touched on earlier. You managed to both be inside the character and yet to stand outside yourself at the same time. And it's that double thing which is to me the heart of irony. Yeah. And it's very difficult to do both at once, but I thought you did fully.
Would you define the difference in when you're directing an actor? When you say be more wry, do you link the wryness with the irony? Is it the same thing, or is there a tidge of difference between irony and wryness?
Well, wryness is simpler, isn't it? It's what we say is do it with wry humour, and that's a note about the humour. Irony is about this double vision, which very often has humour in it, but is more difficult. But it's the double vision.
It's the double vision.
Good.